Cheers, guys. Epix 911, welcome to VR Roundup, episode 11. Guys, the date is November 21st. It is a Tuesday. Lots of topics to touch on in today's VR Roundup. Before we do, quick channel update. So we had some branding changes a few months ago. Then I made the switch from daily to twice a week, which is the VR Roundup show that you're watching right now. We've also got VR A to Z, which is more topical. We're wrapping up the history of virtual reality on that series. We're also doing episodes on locomotion, on haptics, VR Quick Look, which made its comeback with Skyrim VR the other day. And while I was disappointed with the audio, I had an issue with the Lav and Blue Yeti mic being too close to each other. I didn't hear it, but still should have had a frequency filter. I'm going to ensure future episodes do. But there were a lot of positive comments on the descriptions that I was giving of the VR experience. And that's where the fourth and final series comes in. I've always wanted to be able to review experiences and games in VR in a way that does more justice to the technology of VR. A lot of the current stuff, and there's a lot of options out there watching people do what amount to Let's Plays of VR games, but no real descriptions that cater to VR, that help drive home what somebody who has a virtual reality headset can expect from that title, because we're all caught up in describing games like we've always done. And I think with VR, we need to take a different approach. Had the first episode for that already, but you guessed it probably. It was another Skyrim episode, and 3 in a row I thought was just a bit too much. So we're going to do one on the Talos principle, which I think is better suited to that anyways, because a quick look would really just amount to a spoiler episode for a puzzle game like the Talos principle. So that series making its debut within the next few days. With that said, guys, let's jump into the first story. Do-it-yourselfers. True. Do-it-yourselfers can produce passable, functional things right up to works of art, but they can also create stuff like this. Just because you can make something, well, doesn't always mean you should. Starting out as a Kickstarter product, Synergy Wiz raised 10 times their initial $5,000 Kickstarter goal for the Revolve. The unit itself for non-backers is not cheap, but apparently they have sold quite a few at the $195 US price point. Reviews for the product and hype, though, talk about the product as if it was a $95 product, not $195. So I'm a little confused with that, but I'm going to be doing some more researching. More on that, though, when I get to it. For now, I want to talk about the plans that they are offering for free. That one also raised an eyebrow, because here they are offering what they're selling for about $200, basically for free if you have a 3D printer. I wondered what the catch was. Then I was able to put it together. I saw that on their website, they're also offering the foam, springs, and other materials for $25 US. So there's the catch. That's how they hope to make their money, by releasing it for free. So I imagine sales had basically trickled down from the initial kind of stampede that they had, and they wanted a way to still make money from those people maybe who have 3D printers, and selling what amounts to foam and springs for $25 US does exactly that. So if you have a 3D printer and you have an HTC Vive, you can turn basically your 3D printer into providing you with what almost amounts to a deluxe head strap. It's got flip-up capability, puts you a little closer. It's retractable like the deluxe audio strap and the Oculus Rift headset. All of that for free, and then $25 US to pad it all up and put the springs in place. HaptX, the rebranded name of a company that we've covered in the past, Axon VR, they have revealed a prototype glove that uses Micro-Pneumatics for haptics and force feedback for individual fingers. They're aiming it at enterprise, not gaming. Writer Ben Lang from VR Focus, he was able to try out demo. He said getting ready for the demo involved 2 additional people, one on either side, helping him put the hefty gloves on. However, Once on, the demo, he said, provided haptics and force feedback that were among the most responsive and detailed that he tried to date, thanks in part to their patented Micro-Pneumatics. Those are small inflatable circles that act as haptic pixels. This according to Jake Rubin, the CEO and one of the two co-founders. The idea being that small objects can be felt with a high degree of realism, given that there are about 100 of these individual haptic pixels that can be inflated. The demo was of a miniature barnyard with sunflowers on one side and a tiny patch of wheat on the other. Using a proprietary magnet tracking system, Ben said he could run his fingers through the wheat, mirroring the dream scene in Gladiator, where he is back home on his farm lands, which were in Spain. One of the questions in the comment section in that article from Ben Lang asked if it could mimic, say, the feeling of squishing a very ripe or rotten tomato. According to Ben, while it didn't have that type of functionality in the demo, he doesn't believe it can mimic that currently. It also isn't able to do the type of stuff that a lot of us using it for gaming would like, swords, guns. As I said from the outset, it's more concerned with enterprise level, smaller, finer objects, gearing it more for a device providing haptics for training, etc. And next up, just a couple of quick reminders for Black Friday. The other week in VR Roundup, I talked about the bundle available to North Americans, the Vive with the Fallout 4 pre-order and the deluxe audio. Europeans have that bundle available, plus some extras. They also get a pre-order coupon for Doom VFR thrown in as well, and the first month of a Vive subscription thrown in. So roughly about £150 in total savings for that bundle if you are ordering via the European site. Samsung's VP of Electronics and Graphics Research and Development took to the stage at the company's annual developer conference to talk about their next future VR project, saying, "The question is, how do we combine the benefits of both Gear VR and our Odyssey HMD for our next system?" He goes on to say he believes it will have 6 degrees of freedom controllers, as well as inside-out positional tracking. I'm really curious to hear more about this unit. We already know that Samsung does screens for virtual reality really well. They supply the screens for a lot of the solutions on the market. How are they going to fare, though, with 6 degree of freedom tracking? And what I'm really curious about is how their solution for inside-out tracking is going to work. And this, one of the most platform-varied social VR applications, Rec Room, launching on yet another platform, this time the PlayStation VR. This extends to North America, South America, and the EU. No confirmation if it's also available for Asia PlayStation VR users. If I find out, I will let you guys know. And this next story. Not everyone, guys, is cut out for performing the perfect heist and then making a clean getaway. In fact, some just downright terrible at all aspects of heist planning. Those are the types that probably should stick to heists in video games, like Payday 2, which has beta VR support for both Rift and Vive, but the Rift version had some controller rendering and functionality issues. Overkill Software, the devs behind Payday 2, say they have issued a hotfix for Rift users that they say can natively recognize the touch controllers and address some of the issues they were having. Overkill does still stress that the best experience and the one that they say is required is a room scale setup. So if you have a Rift, they recommend you do the 3-sensor setup. The only version of the game currently available on Steam is the Ultimate Edition, which includes all the DLC for $45 US. To access the VR beta, you need to opt in to the beta branch. You can do that via Steam. Find Payday 2 in your Steam library, right-click, select Properties, select the Betas tab, and then open VR Beta. The last developer recommendation is that you have a GTX 980 or the AMD equivalent or above. And next, one of my favorite, more psychedelic style of gaming, was delivered through Res Infinite, and the VR version was absolutely amazing. Personally, I played it on PlayStation VR, but it is now available on Steam if you have a Rift or a Vive, and available on the Google Daydream platform for a really, really good price, $9.99 US. Highly recommend the game, guys. If you've never played it, and especially if you have a Daydream, not a bad price for an absolutely amazing experience. Well, guys, that is it for the current events and news for VR Roundup on this Tuesday. I'll be back for Game & Friday. Look for VR Experience. I should have an episode released before the week is over, as well as the wrap-up to the History of VR series. Guys, as always, cheers.